The courtroom air conditioning bites at my skin, cold and sterile like a surgeon's blade. It does nothing to cool the fire building in my gut. He sits across the aisle, whispering to his lawyer, a smirk playing on his lips. He thinks he's won. He thinks the papers are airtight, the lies polished smooth. But then she walks in. The air thickens. Every eye in the room flicks to her. She's wearing it. The ring. The one he bought her. And on her hand, glinting under the fluorescent lights, is my grandmother's diamond. My breath catches, a sharp, painful gasp. It sits there, mocking me, a beacon of betrayal in this sterile, official room. Let me know where you're watching from and what time it is. And if you haven't already, please subscribe. It helps me more than you know. Before this Arctic chill, this fluorescent glare, there was sunlight filtering through dusty blinds in our living room. There was the comfortable weight of silence between us, the kind you mistake for peace when it's actually just emptiness settling in. We had a life, or what I thought was a life. A house with a mortgage, 2 cars in the drive, the quiet hum of routines. He worked late, I worked late, we ate dinner, watched TV, slept in the same bed that felt miles wide. We didn't talk about dreams anymore or fears or anything that mattered. We talked about bills, groceries, the weather. It was a landscape of mundane, and I was so focused on navigating the everyday terrain, I didn't see the sinkhole opening beneath my feet. My grandmother's diamond. It wasn't just a stone. It was history. A legacy. She wore it for 50 years through thin and thinner, through building a life with my grandfather from nothing. When she gave it to me, pressed into my palm on her deathbed, her fingers frail and cool against mine, she whispered, "Build something beautiful with it, darling. Something that lasts." It was supposed to be set into a ring, an heirloom for my future, a tangible piece of her enduring strength. I kept it in a small velvet pouch in my safe deposit box, waiting for the right time, the right design, the right feeling to honor its story. It was untouched, a promise held sacred. The first crack in the foundation wasn't a tremor, but a whisper. A strange charge on a credit card statement, a high-end jeweler hours away. He said it was a watch for a client. I frowned, but the explanation was smooth, practiced. Too practiced? I pushed it away. We were busy. Stressed. People make weird purchases. Then the late nights grew later. The phone calls became hushed, taken in other rooms. His gaze drifted, his energy focused elsewhere. He was present, but absent. A ghost in his own life, or maybe just mine. The feeling was a dull ache at first, then a persistent throb. Something is wrong. Deeply wrong. I started looking. Quietly. Not like a spy, but like someone feeling their way through a dark room, bumping into furniture. Little things. Strange texts, quickly deleted. A scent of perfume that wasn't mine on his jacket. The way he flinched when I touched his arm. Each discovery was a small cut, adding to the internal bleeding. I tried talking. Is everything okay? The answers were rehearsed, dismissive. Just work stress. You're imagining things. The gaslighting began subtly, a constant, gentle erosion of my reality. Was I crazy? Was I paranoid? Maybe I was just tired. The day I found the pictures was a Tuesday. He'd left his laptop open, which he never did. My fingers hovered over the trackpad, a tremor running through them. Something urged me away, a primitive instinct screaming, ignorance is bliss. But another, stronger urge, the one that demands truth, pushed me forward. The folder was simply labeled work files. Inside, nestled among spreadsheets and documents, were pictures of her, posed, smiling, wearing the ring. My world tilted. The air left my lungs. The ring. I zoomed in, my hand shaking so violently the cursor danced across the screen. The setting was different, modern, but the diamond, there was no mistaking it. The faint, almost imperceptible inclusion near the girdle, the specific fire in its depths. It was mine. It was Grandma's. The shock was a physical blow. It doubled me over, a guttural sound tearing from my throat. Not just betrayal, not just an affair, but this desecration. using the one tangible link I had to my grandmother, to my history, to buy a symbol of their sordid little future. It wasn't just infidelity. It was a violation of something sacred, something irreplaceable. The diamond wasn't his to take. It wasn't his to give. He had stolen it, not from a bank vault, but from the core of my being, from the legacy of a woman he pretended to respect. I confronted him. The scene is a blur of his bluster, his denials, his eventual, sickening confession. He stammered something about needing money, about loans, about replacing it later. Lies. All lies. He didn't need money. He needed a twisted way to solidify his bond with her using something that held infinite value to me. He had cracked open my safe deposit box, the place where I kept my most treasured possessions, and plundered my grandmother's legacy. The casual cruelty of it was staggering. It wasn't just about sex. It was about power, about taking what wasn't his and flaunting it. The decision to divorce was instant. There was no debate, no hesitation. The man I thought I married was a stranger, a thief who had stolen my history. But the legal battle was brutal. He fought dirty. He hid assets. He twisted every conversation, every argument, into a narrative where I was the unstable one, the one who was financially irresponsible, the one who was making things up. His lawyer was a shark, sleek and utterly ruthless. They tried to paint me as an emotionally volatile woman prone to exaggeration. They dismissed my claims about the diamond as sentimental nonsense, impossible to prove he had stolen that specific stone. My own lawyer, bless her pragmatic soul, was skeptical about making the diamond the centerpiece. It's sentimental, yes, but proving he took that exact one and not just bought a similar stone. It's circumstantial. We need to focus on the financials. She wanted to fight on solid, provable ground. But I couldn't let it go. The diamond wasn't circumstantial to me. It was the epicenter of the betrayal. It was the smoking gun, buried not in his hand, but on hers. It represented the depth of his depravity. The divorce proceedings dragged on, a relentless cycle of depositions, interrogatories, and mounting legal bills. My savings dwindled. The stress was a constant companion, a lead weight in my chest. There were days I could barely get out of bed. Days I felt like I was drowning in paperwork and lies. He seemed to be winning, or at least making the process so agonizingly slow and expensive that I might break first. The mistress, I heard through veiled comments from his side, was confident, already planning her new life in my house, spending money that was rightfully ours. My house, my money, my diamond. Everything felt contaminated. I remember sitting in my lawyer's office one rainy afternoon, the city gray and miserable outside the window. We were reviewing financial documents, columns of numbers that blurred into meaningless symbols of loss. She pointed to a large withdrawal, flagged it as suspicious. He'd claimed it was for business expenses. It was around the time the ring appeared on the mistress's social media. The suspicion gnawed at me, the connection undeniable in my gut, but still just a feeling, not proof. My lawyer sighed, rubbing her temples. We can push on this, but without a clear paper trail. That's when something inside me snapped. All the fear, the exhaustion, the feeling of being cornered and outmaneuvered, coalesced into a hard, cold resolve. I looked at my lawyer, my voice quiet but firm. We need the diamond. She looked at me like I was crazy. We've been over this. We can't just get it. And even if we did, proving, no, I interrupted. Not proving it was Grandma's legally. Proving it was emotionally. Proving he stole that. We need her. I meant the mistress. My lawyer leaned back, considering. She's not a party to the divorce, but the ring is relevant to his dissipation of assets. I argued, latching onto something I'd read. And she's wearing it. In public. She's flaunting stolen property, a flicker of interest ignited in my lawyer's eyes. This wasn't just about the financials anymore. This was about strategic warfare. The plan formed slowly, piece by agonizing piece. It wasn't just about winning the divorce. It was about justice for my grandmother's memory, about exposing the rotten core of his betrayal in the most public, undeniable way possible. It involved digging deeper than credit card statements. It involved finding out everything I could about her. Her vulnerabilities. Her secrets. Everyone has them. Especially people building a life on someone else's ruins. It wasn't pleasant work. It felt dirty, staining my hands with their mess. But the image of that diamond on her finger, a constant, glittering insult, fueled me. It was a poisonous well, and I had to expose the source. Weeks turned into months. The legal skirmishes continued, but beneath the surface, a different battle was being waged. My lawyer worked the angles within the legal framework, using discovery to gather more information about the ring purchase, the timing, the source of funds. I worked outside it, gathering leverage. Information only she would care about. Information that could make the glittering prize on her finger feel very, very heavy. There were late-night calls, discreet meetings, hushed conversations. It required patience, a poker face, and the willingness to walk a fine line between gathering evidence and persuasion. It felt like building a complex trap, each piece placed with agonizing precision. The waiting was the hardest part, waiting for the right moment to spring it. The courtroom again. The air still cold. The tension a physical presence. He still looked confident, maybe a little smug.
He had no idea.
My lawyer was questioning him about assets, about expenses, walking him through the finances. She circled closer and closer to the suspicious withdrawal, to the jeweler. He deflected, parried, offered smooth explanations. He was good. Years of lying to me had given him plenty of practice. But this time, the stakes were different. Then my lawyer shifted gears. Mr. Smith, you testified that the withdrawal of funds on date was for business expenses. Is that correct? Yes, he said, his voice steady. And those expenses were paid too. He named a generic vendor, a standard business expense. A small lie, easily swallowed in the vast sea of divorce paperwork. I see, my lawyer said, her tone neutral. And this withdrawal was not used, for instance, to purchase an item of jewelry? His eyes flicked to me, then back to his lawyer.
A Weishao pause. No.
It was not. The lie hung in the air. I felt a cold calm settle over me. This was it. My lawyer continued, her voice picking up a quiet intensity. Specifically, a ring? He hesitated, a flicker of something annoyance?
Surprise?
Crossing his face.
No.
Definitely not a ring, he chuckled, a short, sharp sound. Why would I purchase a ring at that time?
I was.
Well, my marriage was deteriorating, the calculated cruelty of it. Perhaps, my lawyer said, her gaze fixed on him, it was purchased for someone else. His smugness faltered, just for a fraction of a second. He regained control. I don't know what you're implying. I'm implying, Mr. Smith, my lawyer said, her voice cutting through the quiet of the courtroom, that you used funds from our joint account to purchase a diamond ring for your mistress. And not just any diamond. A diamond stolen from your wife's deceased grandmother. A ripple went through the room. His lawyer objected immediately, loudly. Objection. Speculation. Inflammatory and irrelevant. The judge leaned forward. On what basis are you making this claim, counsel? We have evidence, Your Honor, my lawyer stated calmly. And we have a witness. That's when she was called. The mistress. She walked to the stand, her face pale, avoiding his eyes. She was wearing the ring. My grandmother's diamond. My stomach clenched. This was the moment. My lawyer began questioning her. About her relationship with him, about gifts she received. The mistress answered nervously, admitting to the affair, to receiving gifts. Then came the question about the ring. Mistress's last name. Can you identify the ring you are wearing? She held up her hand, the diamond flashing. It's a ring. He gave it to me. And when did he give it to you? She gave a date. It aligned perfectly with the suspicious withdrawal. Did he tell you where he got the diamond? My lawyer asked. Silence. The mistress shifted uncomfortably. My ex-husband was rigid in his seat, watching her, a look of growing alarm on his face. He clearly thought she was his witness, his accomplice. He said it was an investment, she mumbled. An investment? My lawyer pressed. Did he mention it belonged to anyone previously? She hesitated, glancing at my ex-husband again, who was now practically vibrating with tension. His lawyer was whispering urgently to him.
He
Said he'd had it for a while, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Mistress's last name? My lawyer's voice was gentle now but firm. Have you recently been presented with information that changes your understanding of where that diamond came from? The mistress's eyes filled with tears. She looked at my ex-husband, and for the first time, I saw not devotion, but accusation. She had been blindsided too, just in a different way. My leverage had worked. I had shown her proof. He hadn't just bought the diamond. He had stolen it from his dying grandmother-in-law's legacy. I had explained what that diamond meant, shown her pictures of my grandmother wearing it, shared the story of its history. I had made the glittering prize on her finger feel like 30 pieces of silver. And I had shown her what he was truly capable of, how easily he could lie and manipulate everyone, including her. She took a deep, shuddering breath. Yes, she whispered. I have. And based on that information, my lawyer continued softly. Do you believe that diamond was legitimately his to give to you? She shook her head, tears streaming down her face now.
No.
The courtroom was silent. The air crackled. My ex-husband looked like he'd been physically struck. And do you know, my lawyer asked, her voice rising slightly, whose diamond that was? She looked directly at me, her eyes full of a strange mix of shame and sorrow.
It was
her grandmother's. My ex-husband made a choking sound. Given this new understanding, my lawyer said, her voice strong and clear, do you feel it is appropriate for you to keep this ring? The mistress looked down at the ring on her finger, her hand trembling. Slowly, she began to pull it off. My ex-husband half rose from his seat, a sound of pure, animalistic denial tearing from his throat.
No.
What are you doing? The mistress ignored him. Her fingers fumbled with the ring, finally pulling it free. She held it out, towards me, towards my lawyer, towards the judge. I can't keep it, she choked out, sobbing now. It was hers. It was stolen. She stood there, hand outstretched, holding the glittering symbol of his crime. My ex-husband stared, his face draining of color, his eyes wide with disbelief and panic. The carefully constructed facade of lies he had built, the confidence he wore like armor, shattered in that instant. He hadn't just been exposed. He had been betrayed by the very person he had used my history to impress. The look on his face was utter, complete devastation. It wasn't just about the divorce anymore. It was about the public dismantling of his character, the undeniable proof of his rot. He gasped, a terrible, rattling sound. His hands flew to his chest. His eyes rolled back. He crumpled forward, hitting the table with a sickening thud before sliding to the floor. Chaos erupted, people shouting, rushing forward. His lawyer yelling his name, the judge banging her gavel. But all I could see was the diamond, still clutched in the mistress's trembling hand, and his collapsed form on the floor. He had stolen a legacy, built a lie, and when faced with the truth delivered by his own chosen accomplice, his body had simply given up. In the aftermath, the courtroom cleared, leaving behind a stunned silence. The diamond was retrieved, a small, cold thing in the evidence bag. The legal battle was far from over, but the tide had turned irreversibly. His credibility was zero. His dissipation of assets, now linked irrevocably to the theft of a sacred heirloom and exposed by the recipient, was undeniable. The collapse itself felt like a final, pathetic confession. There was no triumph in that moment, only a profound weariness. I had fought for justice, not just legal but emotional, historical justice for my grandmother's memory. I had won, yes, but the victory felt hollowed out, etched with the pain of how low someone I had loved could sink. The diamond was back, a symbol reclaimed, but forever tarnished by the hands that had stolen it and the fingers that had worn it in ignorance. It sat in the evidence bag, no longer just a legacy, but a monument to betrayal. I didn't keep the diamond. I couldn't. Every facet reflected the lie, the theft, the courtroom drama, his collapsing face. It was too heavy a burden for something meant to represent enduring love and strength. I sold it. Every single cent went to a local women's shelter, a place where women escaping their own betrayals could find safety and a chance to rebuild. It felt like the only way to cleanse the stone, to turn its poisoned history into something good, something that honored my grandmother's true spirit far more than sitting in a vault or on my hand ever could. The money was clean. The intention was pure. It was a final act of reclaiming power, not just for myself, but for others. Healing is a slow, uneven road. The scars remain, invisible but deep. The trust one lost is a limb I'll never fully regain. But I learned something essential in that cold courtroom. That truth has its own power, sometimes quiet, sometimes explosive. That the things people hide, the things they think are secrets, can become weapons. And that even when someone tries to steal your history, your legacy, your very sense of self, you can fight back. You can reclaim not just what was taken, but your own strength, piece by painstaking piece. The collapse wasn't the end of the story, but the violent, ugly closure of one chapter. The next one, I get to write myself, with no stolen diamonds, no lies, and no one else's legacy defining my worth. If this story hit close to home, I'd love to hear your version. Drop a comment below with where you're listening from and what time it is. Thanks for being here. Subscribing helps bring more of these to life.